Hello guys and welcome to today's video. Today we're back with 8.3.1, the full all paths and the easiest way to complete them all for 100% completion. This is to help you guys get Valiant, as mentioned in the previous 8.4 series. I think that this will help you out quite a bit. You do need, currently in the game, you need the full Act 8 completion and Necropolis to get your Valiant mark. Once you get to Valiant, it then becomes a bit easier to get rank 3s. But if you're free to play, this is really the only way to play the game. Excuse the helicopter outside, it's making quite a bit of noise. Right, so jumping into the all of the paths, the easiest path in my opinion is the Symbiote Supreme one. Very easy path. I think took it down quite easily. Of all the defenders, you only really need a counter for Spider-Man Supreme because of that sort of invisibility. You need a miss counter for him. But looking at the nodes on here, we've got whenever a science attacker gains a Fury effect, they gain a non-stacking Unstoppable, lasting 15 seconds. Knocking down the defender refreshes the Unstoppable, inflicts a 30% physical vulnerability debuff. So obviously, as you can see, if you get Fury, you can keep Unstoppable for the whole fight, basically, if you continue to knock them down. The duration of your Unstoppable effects are increased by 100%, so it's, they're long Unstoppables. You do need them to do damage, but you'll see that it's pretty difficult to lose your Unstoppable, so you'll constantly have the buff. You've also got Strikers deal a burst damage equal to 150% of their damage dealt. This helps massively, so make sure you have relics or strikers attached to the champs that you choose to bring in. Other than that, whenever your combo meter reaches 10, the defender gains a 5-second unblockable buff. Shouldn't be too much of an issue when you look at the champs on here. Maybe Green Goblin is, but because he's the only one with sort of difficult to dex special attacks, but not something to worry about too much. They also get an energized passive, but a lot of these champs, probably why it's the easiest path in my opinion, is because a lot of these champs have easily dexable special attacks. So there are some champs you can use. You can use science champs with Furies who don't need a relic, or you can use science champs with Furies, and what I found was a lot of the science relics gave you a Fury, so you ended up having one anyway. So good champions to use just in general. You can use Scorpion with the Venom synergy, which is who I used for a lot of this. Every hit Scorpion, or every sting Scorpion puts on the opponent, you get Fury, so it's just constant. Titania, Hulk, regular Hulk, She-Hulk does work, Photon works, Silk works, Overseer, Thing are all good champions, and Cassie Lang as well. And then you can bring, like I said, science champs without a Fury, but they do need relics. These are champs like Quicksilver, I-Bomb, Joe Fixit, Sandman, Spider-Ham, Luke Cage. But as I said, make sure you bring in somebody for this Spider-Man Supreme because he is can be very annoying. I used Quicksilver as my miss counter. You can go with other champs if you prefer them, but yeah, I do think that Quicksilver was sort of the best option for this. Going in to the second path, beginning with Ant-Man. Do I think this is the second easiest? I'm not 100% sure, but this one and the next one are about the same. Do you know what I mean? The defenders are relatively easy. You're not got too much to worry about. So the one with the Ant-Man, we've got whenever a skill attacker activates a striker, they gain 3 cruelty buffs, increasing their critical damage by 30% for 20 seconds. They are paused while the striker is active. The defender has indefinite protection, goes on cooldown when they're struck by a striker, so you do need relics for this path. Do remember that. They are required. Whenever the attacker ends a combo with the same attack they ended their previous combo, it's a guaranteed crit, so use this to your advantage for as many crits as possible, especially when you've built up that... when you've used that striker and built up those cruelty buffs. And then finally, their special attacks are passively unblockable. When you look at the path, no one here, you can't dex. So a very easy path again. This and the Symbiote Supreme the Sorcerer Supreme path are about as easy as one another if you like your skill champs. Skill champs are the best people to use as long as you've got a relic equipped. Any skill champ works. Skill champs with big crits are quite useful. I used, obviously, Kate and Shang-Chi. Both worked really well. You can use Zemo, Mole Man, Hitmonkey, basically any Kingpin, any skill champ you want as long as they've got a striker. And then moving on to the final path with Night Thrasher. I always forget that guy's name. I don't know why. This is a weapon node, so you know some of my favourites. While the defender's charging a heavy attack, they gain 3 energized passives every second. Whenever the defender's knocked down, these energized buffs are removed. To disarm him, use the striker. Whenever the attacker activates a striker, any weapon node is disabled. Capture with a heavy knockdown. That's it. And then you can either use it to your advantage, and while it's on cooldown, bring in champs who have high energy attacks. These are champions, like Storm, Bishop, Kate Bishop, Black Widow, Human Torch. I'm thinking of new ones like Onslaught, Ironheart perhaps, all work quite well. The way I did it was I captured the node and then just constantly was charging a heavy attack, gained 3 indefinite energize, so that I was just constantly throwing big specials. So for this, I just bought in champs who were good counters. I bought in a bleed counter for this Morningstar because obviously she inflicts a bleed. And then that was it really. Somebody to shrug off Void's debuff, so that was Shang-Chi. And then a Thor counter who I usually use Silver Surfer because he's shock immune. Doom works really well for him as well, so you can bring that as well because of his power control. 3 paths, very easy. A lovely start to 8.3 completion. So 3 paths not to worry about. The positive with these 3 paths is that when you get to the final boss, because the paths are easy, you don't need that many. Champs to take in because they are so easy. So you can sort of build up 2 or even 3 slots of boss counters to make the fight super easy. So we'll start with out of the 3, I felt that for me personally, Gore was the easiest. His nodes, I didn't feel like they were that tricky. I thought the main problem with him is that it's a Gore. So whenever the defender struck, he gains an indefinite armor up. When he activates a special, all of these are converted and into Fury buffs, which increases damage. Obviously, if you keep that to SP1, you just dash back. You shouldn't be hit by it. When you intercept, you do get a 200% increase in attack rating. When the defender activates special attack, they do go stun immune for 2 seconds of their own unique buffs. The Gore will have quite a few, so it ends up being sort of 10 to 12 seconds of stun immunity. Whenever you purify a debuff, you take a burst of degen damage. So don't bring in people who shrug debuffs like your Kingpins, your Shang-Chis, those type of champions, just because it's unnecessary damage that you don't necessarily need to take. And his specials inflict a heal block and a passive Fate Seal against regen buffs for 10 seconds. So like I said, it's just a big Gore. That's it. The champ I used was obviously Rintra. Rintra works perfect for Gore. Other champs who you can use, Tigra, Wiccan, the Hood, Longshot works really well for this. You've got quite a few options there for the Gore fight. It's just a big Gore, as I mentioned, so if you don't mind fighting him, take this boss on as the easiest one. We then go to Vulture. Vulture has quite a weird fight, I think. I don't think it's too tricky, but I think it is just it's a bit annoying. And whenever he finishes a special attack, he gains debuff immunity, so try not to bring in champs who rely on debuffs to do a lot of damage. Because they will be taken off. Somebody like a Quicksilver, who you need lots of debuffs on to do big damage. He has, each time a defender is struck while under the effect of an armor buff, they will power burn the attacker. So anyone who's immune to power burn works really well for this. Or who can armor break. I used Venom, I think. Venom worked really nicely for this. Hulkling is also a great champ to take in for the Vulture fight. The attacker's offensive combat power rate is increased by 60%, but 1.10% of their max power, so nothing to worry about really there. While the defender has an active armor up buff, they are immune to the effects of Nullify, Fate Seal, and Stagger. While an armor up buff is active, striking the defender will special lock the attacker. So champs like Hulkling, Gallon worked really nicely for this. Terrax, Venom, Venompool, that they all work quite well. You can bring in Hercules, but you will be power burned quite a lot. Try and bring in a champ who is immune to power burn, or who will make sure that Vulture never has an armor up buff on him, so quite a good armor break, and this fight shouldn't be too much of an issue. And then finally, when we look at Omega Sentinel, again a champ who isn't that tricky if you keep her to her SP1. Some annoying nodes, but nothing too major. Every 3 seconds she gains a permanent armor up, which obviously increases her armor rating. When she struck, reset the timer for creating an armor up buff, so she'll only get 5 of these anyway, but if you're constantly hitting her, she won't get very many. When the defender's armor ups are removed by the effects of armor break, she has a 33% chance to gain an armor up buff, so try not to bring in your armor break champs here. You can do, but it will just give her a third of a chance of getting another armor up anyway, so you'll need to have sort of constant armor breaks as mentioned. Also be aware of her auto block on 3 armors. That is always something to be aware of when fighting Omega Sentinel. As I said, keep her to her SP1. Similar with all of these champs, Gore keep to her SP1, Omega Sentinel keep to her SP1, and Vulture's SP1 is of course easier because you just go to the edge of the screen to dex it, but his SP2 isn't that tricky either. And then finally, every time you perform a well-timed block, you gain a passive disorient, so that is a little bit frustrating, but it's not something you should worry about too much. Just try and intercept her, or just let her into bait heavies, really. Rich get riches on here, which is nice if you bring in like a Gallon or a Hulkling or Silver Surfer, CGR, someone like that, because whoever has more unique buffs does gain a stacking passive fury, so that helps you out massively. So that is it for the first 8.3.1. By far, probably the easiest. All 3 paths are very easy. All 3 bosses are quite easy. For the bosses, it is a big, like a Gallon, a Hulkling, for Vulture, and Omega Sentinel isn't too much of an issue if you've got those champs. And then for the Gore, just somebody with Neutralize will help you out massively, stop him from getting those unique buffs, which will cause you to take a bit of damage. Remember on the paths, Spider-Man Supreme, and make sure you bring him as a counter. But other than that, enjoy it. It's quite a fun quest. It shouldn't be too much of an issue for you guys. If this video has helped you out, please do leave a like, please do subscribe, and comment down below what champions you used and how you found this quest. And I look forward to seeing you in 8.3.2. Catch you in the next one. Goodbye.